Congressman Wenstrup, how are you, sir?
I'm hanging in there. How are you doing, Glenn?
Well, I'm good. First of all, I just want to let people know you are a doctor. You're also an Army Reserve officer and Iraqi war veteran. Thank you for that. You were on the select subcommittee of the coronavirus pandemic. You have, served as a doctor, overseas. You also were at Walter Reed for a while. And you are the medical policy advisor for the Chief of Army Reserve, correct?
Yes, actually retired from the Army in December. But since I was elected to Congress 11 years ago, I've served at Walter Reed and as a medical policy advisor, as well, obviously, as a congressman and a congressman on the Intelligence Committee.
Okay. So now tell the story to the American people in case they don't know about what is going on with the CIA and this bribe to these so-called experts.
Yeah, so, a little background. As a physician, ever since the pandemic started, I'm looking into what's going on physiologically, how do we treat patients. But in that process of doing research, discovered that we were actually engaging with China in a lab in Wuhan to create gain-of-function viruses. That being said, with Intel Committee, I've been involved with this for the past 3 years at least. And what had happened now is we have somebody coming forward as a whistleblower seeking full whistleblower protections. And that means at this time he wants to be anonymous. He came to both the Intelligence Committee and to the Select Subcommittee on the coronavirus pandemic, with which I chair. And he's made many allegations. Obviously, you summed up a lot of them, but there was the CIA in trying to figure out whether this came from a lab or from nature, put together a COVID discovery team, if you will, 7 people, as you talked about. So 6 of the people, they came to the conclusion with some level of confidence that this came from a lab. And the senior person, according to these charges, said it came from nature. Okay, well, you're entitled to your opinion. Mm-hmm. But what they ended up doing at the end of the day, releasing to the public and to the intelligence community, all they said was the CIA was unable to determine. Well, it sounds like they had a pretty high number of people that were able to determine as best as they know it. It is our responsibility on this committee to follow up on everything to do with the pandemic. We take it very seriously. The reaction from the CIA has been very serious. So we're now seeking documents, communications, and we also have asked to speak with Andrew Makritis, who the whistleblower says was the chief operating officer and had a lot to do with constructing this. I hope that the director of CIA will be cooperative with us. But, you hit the big question. Why? Why would they want to do that? This goes back to where Fauci prompted, I'm using their words, prompted a group of scientists to write what's known as proximal origins, where in their internal documents they're saying, oh, yeah, well, they're doing this type of research in China. Oh, yeah, they have this capability. Oh, yeah, this really is something. And then they come out and say it came from nature and tries to make that definitive. Why are we not having a scientific debate? What is the reason for attempting to steer everything in one direction? And here's one of my concerns, Glenn, and I think you'll appreciate this. If this is true, and we have, for political reasons or whatever, changing the notion of changing intelligence, what does that say to our international partners who rely on us for intelligence, who we work with together on intelligence, if our own intelligence department is changing things from what people actually did and said to fit a narrative that they want?
Well,
that's a concern I have.
Not just that. You would imagine that in some cases you would say, hey, let's not release that to anybody. But this is changing things for the intelligence, the oversight. You guys are engaged in oversight, and they didn't tell you this. A whistleblower had to come and tell you this.
Right, and I would contend that if we didn't have Republicans in charge of the House of Representatives, it wouldn't have come forward at all. So this person had an opportunity to go to somebody that would seemingly would listen as a whistleblower, and we are. And so we're pursuing this. We've sent our letters out. That's the first phase of requesting information, documents. When we don't get them, then we dig a little bit deeper and we ask a little harder, and sometimes in the form of a subpoena.
So do we know if they actually paid these other experts, these 6 people out of 7?
Yeah, so in the allegations, I would say that the conjecture is that it may have come in the form of a performance bonus, not just out and out, hey, do this and here's some money if you're following that, but it's the same net effect, right?
Right. And do we have any idea how much? This is taxpayer dollars, right?
Oh, correct. And no, we don't know how much. And again, that's part of the investigation, and we're obligated to do it. I mean, we don't really have a choice. This is what we should be doing. Keep in mind that, and I have to remind members of Congress this too. Congress created these agencies, and we fund those agencies, and we have oversight over these agencies. So not only do I have to remind members of Congress, we certainly have to remind the agencies that this needs to be a working partnership, and you don't get to not tell us things, especially on the Intelligence Committee. The Intelligence Committee, for example, was set up so that there would be oversight over the intelligence community. And this is a select committee, so the people on this committee, which, by the way, is functioning well now and is no longer an impeachment committee. But the Intelligence Committee, people are selected from both sides of the aisle. We also represent the other members of Congress because we're in a place where other members don't get to go. So it's an important role that we have, and the cooperation needs to be there. And sometimes the community, the intelligence community, thinks they don't have to tell us things, and it's in statute that they do. So we will continue to pursue and find the truth, and we have to suggest or legislate things into law that allow us to hold people accountable within agencies when they do things. And I use the example like this, Glenn. In the military, which I served 25 years, we have the UCMJ, Uniform Code of Military Justice. Unethical is unlawful in the military. In our agencies, unfortunately, and this is across the board, but in our agencies, if you violate some of your tenets or what you say are the rules of engagement within your agency, nothing really happens to you. Oh, you might get fired and then go work at CNN. But, this is a problem that we have. And so we are trying on so many fronts to put punitive measures in place when violations are occurring, such as with the FISA court, et cetera. The IG said 17 times things were violated. Well, what actually happens? Yeah. Where's the punitive measures?
Yes.
We're trying to implement those.
So is there a way out from your Justice Department looks horribly soiled. Your NSA, your CIA, your DNI, all of these things look like they've been a part of some really bad things, including the State Department. Now the IRS is involved. How are you possibly going to beat this? It's like whack-a-mole.
Yeah, so, on my particular subcommittee, what I keep saying and have said since the beginning is honesty and truth is non-negotiable. And we're going to be looking for it, and we're going to make sure that it is there. But if it's not there, we're going to point it out and hold people accountable. We have to.
But you can't, excuse me for interrupting, but you can't really hold people responsible if you say that they're in contempt of Congress. Attorney General Garland is the one who has to prosecute, and he just came out and said, I'm not the prosecutor for Congress. Well, yes, you are, but he gets to decide who he prosecutes.
Yeah, and obviously what you're seeing, I know I heard Jim Jordan's voice before I came on. Yeah. And obviously you're seeing all kinds of things where this is just wrong. And I don't know how we get it out to the American public because most people don't know. Obviously I have the opportunity right now to get to your listeners, and that's important. But there are things that are going on today that should be above the fold front page headlines. each and every day, and the mainstream media isn't covering. So our challenge is definitely greater, and elections matter. And I hope people understand that. And, I grew up watching Superman, where they began each show with fighting for truth, justice, and the American way.
Right.
And that's where we have to go. And America has to decide if that's what they want or not, because it's been deviated from tremendously. And let me make this suggestion, too, for our agencies. In the military, you either move up or you're out. And you're required to be agnostic politically. And that's what we need in our agencies. You either move up or you're out. And when you get to the top, there's a mandatory retirement. You don't get to sit there with mounds of authority and covert authority, if you will. And we've got to make changes like that within our system. We started our country with just three agencies: state, treasury, and war. And look what we have now.
I know.
They have rule of law. They put out regulations. We try to pass laws to stop them. It's completely backwards. So America needs to understand to elect people that are willing to make that change and get us back to the government that our founders set up.
Representative Brad Wenstrup, thank you very much for what you're doing. Please keep us informed if there's any other news that starts to break here about the CIA apparently bribing members of the team, the experts on COVID. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for your concern.
You bet.